Okay then, so this morning's presentation is about rhizoanalysis, nomadic pathways in reading the world and self. Okay, now, the theme of this conference is Connect, Create, Continue. Since this is a Deleuze and education panel, it is interesting how education as a multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary field can lend itself to Deleuze's notion of connecting and creating through philosophy, art, and science. Accordingly, and within the conference theme, this presentation focuses on the relationship of philosophy, art, and science to educational research by demonstrating the contribution of a Deleuze-Guattarian conceptual framework that informs multiple literacies theory. Now, multiple literacies, what are they? Literacies are a construct, a combination of social, physical, economic assemblages, examples. Literacies consist of words, gestures, attitudes, and ways of listening, speaking, writing, human and non-human, ways of becoming with the world. They are texts in a broad sense, for example, music, visual arts, physics, mathematics, digital remixes. Texts are an assemblage of events from which sense emerges. Literacies can be taken up as visual, oral, written, tactile, olfactory, and in multimodal digital. They fuse with religion, gender, race, culture, and power, and that produce speakers, writers, artists, digital avatars, communities. Literacies are actualized according to a particular context in time and in space in which they operate. Given the nomadic tendencies of literacies, they are not wed to a context, but are taken up in unpredictable ways across various contexts. Literacies involve constant movement in the process of becoming other. And through reading the world and self as text, literacies constitute ways of becoming with the world. Now let us take a look at some of these concepts. All right. Reading. Reading, according to Deleuze, is asking how a text works and what it does or produces, not what it means. Reading is intensive and imminent. To read intensively is to read disruptively. The question is no longer what do they mean, but rather how do they work, and what do they produce. To read imminently refers to the thought of in reading, and it is from investment in reading that a reader is formed. And here we have an example, I guess. Nope, we're going ahead of ourselves here. Okay. Yeah, here we go. All right, if you have the example here, you may, of what we mean by reading as imminent and intensive. Supposing you're walking along the hallway or at work sometime, and all of a sudden you sort of pause for a moment and you smell of coffee. So perhaps what you might do is, okay, what time is it? Oh, it's 4 o'clock. Now, you've had a disruption, and then there's the imminent reading. It could be the thought of time for a break, maybe time to go home, or the thought of my next vacation where I had this wonderful coffee in Mexico. So this is a way of talking about reading. Now, when it goes to reading the world and self, literacies and reading the world and self are intricately intertwined but distinct. Literacies as processes of becoming draw on the virtual and deterritorializations. Reading the world and self is an effect of an assemblage of actualized and imminent experiences. In this sense, reading the world and self can be thought of as an event of becoming. Literacies as processes. By placing the emphasis on how, the focus is on the nature of literacies as processes. Life experiences actualize at the moment of assemblage in the actualized event only to transform and become virtual machines. An important aspect of MLT is focusing on how literacies intersect in complex and non-linear ways in becoming. This is what MLT produces. Becoming, that is, from continuous investment in literacies, individuals are formed as literate. MLT refers to literacies as processes. The entry point can be a territory, stability and striation, to deterritorialization and becoming, resistance, chaos, instability, the untimely, smoothness, and to reterritorialize, different mapping. Sense has a virtual actual component. Perhaps sense as virtual becomes actualized just as the event is actualized as an, and I quote from Stagnall, instantaneous production intrinsic to interactions between various kinds of forces, or as the product of the synthesis of forces. This product, sense event, is not a state of affairs, but a transformation in becoming. Text also has virtual actual components. It is virtual as pre-personal as signifying machines. It is actualized through an assemblage of heterogeneous forces that come together in a particular time and place. Then sense-making is also actualized as perception and or possibly experience. Tense is sense-making, an outcome of virtual events connecting with actual experiences. Okay. Now, in the context of the study I'm presenting, acquiring literacies involve different writing systems and can create an environment for worldviews, set of beliefs, practices, to resonate because of the sociocultural, political, and historical situatedness of learning and literacies. There is resonance when different values and beliefs about language, about literacies, are introduced as a result of encounters with other literacies. Learning and literacies do not take place in a progressive linear fashion. In a Deleuzian way, they happen in response to problems and events that occur in life experiences. Literacies are not merely about language codes to be learned. Learning and literacies are about desire, about transformation, becoming through continuous investment in reading the world and self as texts in multiple environments, such as the home, school, and community. So let me just maybe talk about the study, and the methodology we're working with is rhizoanalysis. The conventional term, methodology, has been disrupted and reterritorialized as a rhizomatic process. As an inductive approach, it does not apply pre-established categories. It resists temptations to interpret and ascribe meaning. Rhizoanalysis views data as fluid and in flux, thus keeping the way open and working rhizomatic in-betweens to ask what connections may be happening between multiplicities. Now, this was a 2-year study of multilingual children's literacies in French communities in Ontario, Canada. The research questions that we were working with are the following. How do reading the world, and self impact children's perceptions of writing systems? Conversely, how do perceptions of writing systems shape reading the world, and self? There were 5 participants, but today I'm going to just give you vignettes from 2 children, Australia and Dora, or pseudonyms. The children are between 5 and 7 years old. They attend schools where French is the sole language of instruction, but they also speak a second and third language at home. And in addition to the children, the teachers and parents were also a part of this study. The activities involved observations that were videotaped during language arts, science, math, and social studies, and interviews following each videotaping. There were also interviews with the teachers and parents, and we also had artifacts of the children's texts creation at home and at school.